They are in for a shock of their lives, learning that you are not the quiet little mouse they expected you to be. They thought they had you all figured out. Someone who would not rock the boat or challenge their authority. Not even close. You've been keeping a tight watch on everything, calculating and waiting for the proper moment to attack. Now is the moment to show them who's in command of this operation. This restrained demeanor was nothing more than a deliberate move you took while evaluating their vulnerabilities. It would be amazing to witness their astonished reactions when you finally step up and take control of the issue. They were totally unprepared for that. But they'll discover that you're the genuine head of the town and have been in command all along. It's not the way they originally looked at you. It's not immediately clear. They may pause in their speech, adjust their posture, or give you an uneasy look if they perceive you are not paying attention. On the other hand, you are and can witness it. The slow unraveling begins the moment awareness dawns in their eyes. As in the past, they dismissed you, spoke over you, and ignored you as if you were nothing more than background noise. But something has changed, something they can't express and strain to understand before absorbing it. They felt a powerful and unmistakable change in energy. For the first time, they are unclear of where they stand with you, and as a consequence, they stumble over their words, doubt their own self-assurance, and struggle through formerly easy talks. Assuming they found you out, they imagined you would be trustworthy, safe, and easy to ignore. They failed to realize, however, that the energy that is least visible in the room is often the most dangerous. You didn't change. They were just blind. They were oblivious to the strength that was always there, hidden in plain sight, blind to the power you've always had but never needed to show, blind to the reality that while they were preoccupied with underestimating you, you were just waiting for the time when they would be forced to recognize you for who you always were. At this time, they have no other alternatives. They are cautious since they are no longer acquainted with the rules. They want your approval because they are unsure if they can continue to treat you as if you are an afterthought. They feel the change, and for the first time, they realize you are never beneath them. Rather, you are seen to be superior in their world. It is not about making the greatest noise, having the loudest voice, or being the most present. It does not include demanding attention by exerting one's power and acting as if it were something that should be done since you never did. They gave you the boot. They saw your capacity to observe as a lack of presence, your patience as weakness, and your quiet as irrelevance. And they mistook your tolerance for weakness. They consigned you to the background, as a spectator or a supporting role in their storylines, which they deemed to be of tremendous significance at the moment. You permitted them to do so because you knew something they didn't. An announcement is not required when genuine authority exists. You've never had to be in the limelight or prove your value in front of a gathering of people who can't see beyond their own operating system. As a result, you gave others the freedom to believe anything they wanted since you were never bothered about their view. When you walk in, people have a different experience. They are unable to accurately define the pressure, presence, or shift. In addition to the fact that you have developed, they are now motivated to see you after previously being unable to do so. They are unable to match their perceptions with their prior assumptions about the issue. The finest illustration of cognitive dissonance is provided here. They are at a loss for words, unable to fathom the reality that the person they dismissed as beneath them is now the one who exceeds them without even making an attempt. This is not due to a sudden increase in your abilities. Rather, it is because you have always been this much. You were watching them whenever they neglected, overlooked, or underestimated you. They were just too proud to acknowledge it. And now it's devouring them because you're watching them. Each time they did it, they believed that they were in command. However, they were utterly oblivious that you were the one taking notes, gathering information, and accruing quiet victories while they wasted time underestimating you. They are now aware of the shift, even if they may not understand why it occurred. They are aware that their confidence in your presence has diminished. Their gestures vary, and they do not communicate with you in the same manner. Furthermore, the most terrifying feature for them is that you did not act in any manner. Not only did you not dispute, but you also did not prove your value or beg for recognition. Your very presence was enough to shake their idea of power to its core, and it was all that was needed. They should be allowed to struggle with it. They should be able to wiggle because you were never nobody. Simply stated, they were not ready to face you for who you really are. You let them imprison you. You enabled them to define you from their restricted viewpoint. You told them you were dependable and safe, and you gave them the sense that you were easy to classify and manage. It was never your obligation to correct them, since you knew that when the time came, their illusion would be destroyed. And it was. Their facial expression varied over the night. Their posture grew stiff, and the way they battled to make sense of something that no longer fit into their carefully constructed image of you was all there on their faces in real time. They displayed self-assurance when they were in charge and when they thought you were less important. This self-assurance has been replaced with doubt because the version of you that they have built in their imaginations does not correlate to the force that is being shown to them. This makes them feel afraid, not because you're loud or powerful, but because you don't have to be that way. You are not a performing power. Rather, it is an undeniable power. It's not because you altered that. It bears weight. Now, rather, it's because they can no longer pretend you don't matter. They can sense it in every word you say and every step you take. It was never about demonstrating your worth on the battlefield of perception. Rather, it was about them finally admitting to the country that they were wrong. They are unable to unsee it. They are impossible to be unseen. When they realize they've never truly known you, they can't bring themselves to alter their beliefs, misinterpreting your quiet as insignificant. They made blunders by misunderstanding patience for passivity and you for someone who could be managed. They are not going to make that mistake again. As a silent presence, a passive observer, someone they might play with, reject, or pass by without giving it any attention. They thought you were a safe and unthreatening person. They saw what they wanted to see, a little, inconsequential mouse that was beneath them. And you let them believe that because that's how actual power works. The most deadly carnivores don't roar before attacking. There has been no official notice of their existence. Instead of showing off their strength, they wait for it to play out. And you waited. You saw. You calculated. You observed how they moved, how they functioned, and how they mistook arrogance for invincibility. You saw every insult, every mistake, and every time they let their guard down. They were never in the lead. Instead, they were marching directly into your hands. They recognize that something is not quite right. The confidence they once had is eroding, and the self-assurance they portrayed with such boldness is starting to tremble. They may sense it in the way the energy changes. When you step in, talks do not flow as easily, and they pause to second-guess themselves while desperately attempting to recover control. The trouble is that you were never the mouse, and they were never in charge. They were prey long before they were aware of it. However, it is too late. You were never the mouse. Simply pause for a moment. This message is not for everyone, and it is perfectly all right if you do not resonate with it. You may get on with your life. Those who do not fit in, those who glimpse beyond the veil, people who have been trained to be quiet, relax, and conform, yet have never been able to do so will say no. That this is for them. If you feel it deep into your bones, you'll know it's meant for you. The commonplace does not interest them, and they are not here to follow someone else's rules. Without a question, they are unshakable, unstoppable, and untouchable. They are the light that shines in the dark, the storm that shatters illusions. They are following their own path, even if it means going it alone, not for accolades or acceptance from others, but because it is who they are. While the rest of the world is going around in circles, they continue to do so. Begin with murmurs, side glances, discrete vibrational recalibration, and little energy modifications. The talk starts. You can feel it even if it isn't loud or obvious when they stare at you. They do not look at you with contempt or amusement. They are staring at you with distrust. Uncertainty is the first step toward horror, because once they realize they have never completely known you, they are compelled to wonder what else they have missed out on. Furthermore, that inquiry is the first step toward their destruction. Control is everything. Knowing what to anticipate, how to influence others, and how to keep them under control are all forms of control. They thought they had you well confined inside their universe. You were the quiet one, the non-threatening one, the safe, inconspicuous background figure in their flawlessly constructed plot, until you weren't. You were predictable for them. You were a part of the meticulously planned storyline at this time. The panic is starting to set in since they can no longer figure you out. Every move you do disrupts the version of yourself that they were so assured of. They are afraid because every gesture, phrase, and movement in your energy seems to contradict the person they thought they knew. And this is what they are feeling. People love having control over others, which explains why this occurs. But what happens when they realize they never had authority over you in the first place? They made an attempt to adapt, but were too slow. They make an attempt to anticipate, but they're already behind you. They are moving in unexpected ways, reacting in unexpected ways, and being unshakable in circumstances that they expected to shock you. They once felt superior, but now they feel inferior. While they were with you, they used to neglect you, but now they're questioning their own judgment. People used to think that you were someone they could manage. However, they now realize that you are continuously keeping an eye on them, calculating and waiting. You still aren't showing them everything. And this is what upsets them the most. They have no idea how much information you have, how much power you are keeping back, or how far ahead you are right now. Despite their frantic attempts to change, they don't have any answers. All they know is that the quiet person they had previously disregarded is now the most menacing person in the room. You have never demanded attention, so you do not need to do so now. Power is not determined by the loudness of your voice or the energy with which you speak. Rather, your presence gives strength. Now, that presence has the power to dominate everything around you. They first experience it, and then they understand it. The same people who previously ignored you, hardly recognized you, and treated you as an afterthought are suddenly hesitant to talk to you. They are thinking twice about what they are saying. They are unconsciously hunting for hints and studying your response before deciding how to continue. They are seeking your approval as their confidence dwindles and their stance changes. It happens instinctively and without knowledge. As soon as you enter the room, they change their behavior in a variety of ways, such as their tone becoming more subdued, their laughter becoming cautious and seemingly scripted, and conversations moving in your direction as if the energy itself bends to fit you. Despite the fact that you never asked for their attention, they are now obligated to provide it to you. They are irritated and bewildered. But how could this happen? At what time did the power dynamic shift? When did the person they had previously disregarded become the power they unknowingly consented to? They won't say it out loud, but you can tell by the way they look at you and how they are handling the space right now. However, the irony is that you did not try it at first. They mocked at you. They ignored your ideas, your way of moving, and your originality. They maintained a quiet tone. They grinned and pretended you weren't important. Right now, they are emulating you. People who used to make fun of you are now doing the same to you. People who formerly told you they were superior to you are now working hard to become like you. You can tell they're doing so. They begin to use your language, imitate your mannerisms, and adjust their energy to match yours. The things they now claim as their own are the ones you recognize as your essence. They won't accept it since it would mean admitting that they made a mistake in their assessment of you. That suggests that they must accept the fact that the same thing they previously despised is now the thing they are attempting to emulate. They are unable to mimic you because what they are striving to reproduce is not only the way you talk, dress, or conduct yourself, but the energy that lurks behind everything that cannot be copied. Your essence cannot be learnt, imitated, or produced. Rather, it is something you were born with, and no replica can ever come near. Matching. Allow them to emulate. Allow them to behave as if they had found something you have long known. Allow them to assume they are coming up while you keep 10 steps ahead of them, unaffected, unconcerned, and difficult to replicate. Once, they pretended you didn't exist. You recollect how they neglected you, with half-hearted nods, forced small talk, and never completely acknowledging your existence until it served a purpose for them. You were invisible to them. You were only a presence in the background. They never gave you a second thought. They can't quit looking in your way at this moment. They hover in your company, hoping to be acknowledged. They laugh too loudly, agree too quickly, and explore new ways to connect with you. It is in the way that people now use your name with weight that they have never used before, with a subtle respect that they would never have dared to show in the past. At first, you're interested as to why. Then you suddenly realize that they need your approval. However, it is not about respect or admiration. Rather, it's about regret. Regrettably, they underestimated you. Regret that they disregarded you, and regret that while they were doing so, you became the force they could no longer ignore. That power is something people want to be close to. They want to mingle with you in the hopes that being next to you would somehow erase the fact that they formerly dismissed you as insignificant. They want to rewrite history, to believe that they have always supported you and recognized your potential. But you're aware of the fact. Their acknowledgement is unnecessary for you. There is no need for their approval. You have never done this. When the affirmation they offer is motivated by remorse, it is meaningless. The irony is that the same individuals who used to make you feel invisible are now demanding to see you for the first time. Allow them to want. Let them yearn. Allow them to feel the weight of the realization that they were wrong. Because you're not giving them a place at your table. Not now. Not ever. They failed to see it because it was not present. Rather, it was because they did not seek for it. Unfortunately, they were too consumed with their own illusions, too certain of their preconceived views about you, and too unaware to perceive the subtle force that was building under the surface. They can no longer ignore it. Your success was not a spectacular event. It wasn't a terrific show. There were no loud statements or desperate efforts to capture people's attention that followed it. The sort of power that moves across invisible spaces, affecting things without notice, and does not need acknowledgement. It orders it. It was quiet, deliberate, and unstoppable. It was the kind of strength that demanded acknowledgement. However, you can now detect a shift in the past. Persons who formerly treated you as an afterthought now act differently while speaking to you. They carefully chose the words that they employ. They hesitate before forming assumptions. They look to you for cues, subtly changing their behavior in reaction to your presence. You affect the environment, which frightens them since you have not merely gotten more strong. Instead, you have evolved into something they cannot comprehend. They don't enjoy accepting it, but you have altered the environment. They can no longer define you. They're unable to categorize you. They cannot foresee your actions, and they can't understand how they missed anything obvious. Furthermore, the understanding that they are uncertain of is their greatest fear, as you were never meant to be one of them in the first place. It was never designed for you to fit within the area they were attempting to keep you in. You are meant to exceed it, to become something they cannot contain, reduce, or deny the change in power. They are aware of the unmistakable presence you exude without effort right now. And the folks who used to ignore you, hardly notice you, and treat you as an afterthought are suddenly seeking for your approval. They thought they knew you. They felt they understood your strengths, limitations, and worth. They looked at you and saw exactly what they wanted to see. Someone who was easy to control, ignore, and get rid of completely. The truth, on the other hand, does not fit their vision since you were never little, beneath them, and never meant to fade into the background of their life, waiting for their approval, acknowledgement, and acceptance. You never wanted to have it. This is now evident to them. They notice it in the way they hesitate before speaking, in the way their confidence wavers in your presence, in the way their laughter has a forced edge, in the way their words feel carefully chosen, and in the minor variations in the way they walk, because you were never constrained by their expectations. You are always the power that they should have feared. This wasn't because you wanted power or control. Rather, it was because you were never bound by their expectations. The disguise has been removed. This is pure and utter fabrication. They can't undo what they've witnessed. It is no longer possible to reject you. It makes no difference whether people adore or loathe you. Their emotions and opinions are not taken into account, because you are now in command. Indeed, this is the most difficult component for them since the power dynamic has been irrevocably shifted as a consequence of your failure to seek their validation. You do not respond to their anxieties and do not follow their rules. You've already won the game. They are free to respond in whatever manner they choose. Just let them converse. Take a look at these. Allow them to sink into a downward spiral as a consequence of their own incorrect assumptions. On the other side, when did they realize that they were wrong about you in the comments section? Please share your moment of enlightenment. Inform them that quiet was never a sign of weakness. Rather, power was only waiting to be revealed.